Morris Worksman took an interest in creating human-powered vehicles for moving merchandise because he had a retail establishment in Lower Manhattan, and he noticed vendors and merchants selling their goods by means of horse and buggy. He recognized that it was expensive to feed a horse and a lot of work, and that the bicycle can really transfer some of that expense into one vehicle that required no fuel and no food and didn't leave any residue behind. Industrial bikes today offer many businesses an opportunity to move personnel efficiently, in a fuel-free manner. Oftentimes, they start using our tricycle to make deliveries. And not only does the company realize how efficient these are, but their employees come to love riding them. They're getting physically fit. It's very common to see our cycles outside of pizzerias making deliveries at 2 o'clock in the morning, or being used by large grocery stores and supermarkets to deliver groceries.
Dina DeLuca uses a bicycle delivery service because we're downtown in a very urban area with a lot of traffic, and the box creates an advantage for us in that we can put a large order into it, or an order that maybe is not real easily contained in a bag or a package. Flowers, for instance, can go into a bike. Large pots and pans or other case lots fit into the box very well.
The best thing is that I could fit up to 5 bags and do 2-3 deliveries at one shot. You know, instead of coming back and forth, back and forth.
Because we have a dedicated person, the customers are actually reacting to that person. They say, oh, send John over on the bike. So it's actually helped us become much more personable, and it's a little bit more of in a customer service area instead of just a very cold delivery system. The bike is much more personable.
My vision of the future of working bikes is that as fuel prices continue to rise, and more importantly, as fuel sources become more uncertain in the years to come, we see that end of it as being an opportunity where there may be more opportunity to use pedal-powered vehicles in urban settings.
It's my view that bicycles are the most appropriate form of transportation in a city like New York. And most commercial activity can actually be accomplished with work bikes. Actually, taxis, 70% of the time, are taking one person as a passenger, and 90% of the time, 2 or 1 people as passengers. Therefore, pedicabs, bicycle taxis, can accomplish 90% of the trips in a city like New York by for-hire vehicles.
People are amazed how fast we can get from point A to point B.
Took it up at Times Square, took it all the way down to Tribeca without stopping. Just woo! He was ecstatic. He was the best ride of his life. He gave me a tip, like I cannot even disclose how big it was.
For the tourists and for New Yorkers, for anybody who takes a pedicab, you have a lot of fun. It's a very pleasant way to get around the city. Sometimes it's faster. You know, sometimes people are waiting a long time without being able to get a cab in New York City, and up rolls a pedicab. I have so many of my customers who sit on the back of the pedicab and they just go laughing and smiling the whole way to their destination. So for them, it's better. You know, and then for everybody else, I mean, it's just one less car on the street, isn't it?
I had a couple one night. The husband really wanted to go for a ride. And he calls his wife over, and she looked and she said, "I certainly will not." And I said, "Oh, it's safe." She said, "Oh, no, it's cruel and unusual punishment." I said, well, "I'm not doing it for free." She said, I will not get in. No way.
Worst experience, too, is people who disrespect us and who are treating us like a bunch of bumps. And that is really, really getting on our nerves.
My single worst experience was pushing a pedicab from 77th and York back here. We're on Thompson and Broome, folks.
One of the funniest was, obviously, these are all pedal driven. There's no engines on these. And I was taking 2 ladies during the summer last year, and of course I was sweating. And about halfway, they'd been on the cab for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and all of a sudden one says, "Wow, you're really sweating. Oh, you're pedaling this." They thought I had an engine, and they didn't even realize that I was working, as hard as I was. And they were, oh, gee.
We've proven that work bikes are safe in New York, and pedicabs are now 6 years in. We have 30 pedicabs operating. We've trained over 400 people. We've never had a lawsuit. We've never had a passenger hospitalized in 6 years of operating, mostly at night in New York Midtown, which is the worst traffic. So we've actually demonstrated there's a real path in there in terms of people getting on a bicycle who would never ride a bike. They're actually using a pedicab instead of a motor vehicle. So I think this is a perfect bridge for the average tourist, pedestrian, New Yorker, commuter to experience bicycling in New York and to understand that it is safe, that this is actually very practical and as safe as any other option that you can name.
Work bikes can be good for the American economy in that, in their own small way, they can set an example of how we can be less dependent on foreign fuel and fuel in general. And here's a simple way, but a very visual way, and very visible way, I should say also, to set an example that there are ways to do things without turning the key and firing up an 8-cylinder engine.